Hi guys, it's Varun here, and the next step for Tableau is going to be geospatial charts. So the first type of geospatial chart is a filled map. So how this works essentially is it's a map that uses filled regions to display data. So this can be on a countrywide, statewide, or countywide basis. It can't be used for cities because cities are reflected as points on maps, and a filled map is for like general regions, like the ones I mentioned above. So let's go ahead and look at some examples here. All right, so we're going to be working with the sample data in this data set so you guys can kind of follow along. So just go ahead down here when you open up Tableau and click on the sample superstore data set. All right, so now that we have our data set up, we can just take a quick glance at some of the columns that we kind of have here, some of the different like data points. Um, yeah, so it looks good. And the two types of data that we're going to be looking at are going to be the symbol maps and filled maps. So as you can see here, for a filled map, you need one geographical dimension and one measure here. Uh, and if we go over here, we can see the geographical dimensions are denoted by these little globe icons here. So let's go ahead and start working with these. Let's try working with state here. So we'll command click here, and let's look at the sales. So essentially, as you can kind of guess, this is going to be looking at sales per state, and we want to create a filled map here. So as you can see, this kind of popped up. This is one of the suggested options here. So we'll just go ahead and click that, and there we go. So our filled map has popped up. So as you can see, it fills in each region, and since the region we selected was state here, it's going to fill in by each state the number of sales. Um, yeah, so this is kind of like basically how that works. Again, you can see that for maps that it needs one geodimension, possibly more dimensions here, and then only 0 or 1 measures. So let's go ahead and try to edit this a little bit before we mess around. So as you can see here, you can zoom in. Uh, oops. Revert here, and then, right. So now we can just kind of move it around. So yeah, so we can go in and check here. Looks like according to our scale on the right hand side, that the darker colors are going to be the most sales. And as we can see here, looks like California has the most sales with 457,000. It's value right here. Looks like New York is second. Texas, a couple other states are coming in hot at the top, and then other places like it looks like Hawaii and Alaska aren't on here, but looks like you can kind of see the general trend here. So we can go ahead and edit this actually. Uh, so let's change the color. So we can even make the opacity, less or greater depending on how we see fit. I think we'll keep it at around 65, so that way we can kind of read the state names here. And now we can edit the colors. So this is kind of a cool color scheme, but just for the purposes of this, we'll try something else. So let's go with this green and gold theme right here. All right, so you can see this is kind of a gradient theme here. Another thing we can do is we can do steps. So this is kind of similar to the histograms in the sense that it creates bins. So it's divided within this interval into 5 different bins, and you can see that this is going to be the lowest bin and this is going to be the highest bin. We can create more bins if we'd like. I think we'll stick with 5 just to kind of show it, and we'll apply this a little later. So we'll apply this on here, and we can see that it looks like a lot of states are actually falling into that very low bin, and you can kind of see the values corresponding. So this is, 17,000, 2,000 here, 49,000. Yeah, so it looks like kind of the upper bound might be around 60,000. This is 55,000, looks like about the highest within this region. So maybe this isn't as effective as we thought. We might need to add a couple more steps here. All right, so we'll bump it up to 10, apply that. Looks like it's changed a little more. Maybe not quite what we wanted, so I think we can just go back to having the gradient. And there we go. Kind of similar to the other gradient, but we like this, so we'll stick with this for now. So yeah, as you can see, we've created a filled map, and you can instantly tell by looking which states have the most sales and which states have the least. Um, and again, this is sum of sales, so say we want to change that to average. And wow, it looks like Wyoming actually has the highest average sales in the entire country, and California, Texas, and New York have all kind of dropped down. So that's kind of interesting to see. Um, but yeah, you can do all sorts of things. You can do count of sales. Probably going to be pretty similar to some percentile, minimum, maximum, whole different bunch of aggregation functions you can do. For now, we'll stick with some. All right. Um, so yeah, one other thing we can do actually is we can add a filter. So say we want to filter by the product subcategory. So yeah, we'll just go ahead and do that. We'll throw in category here into filters. So it looks like the three categories we have are furniture, office supplies, and technology. Um, I'm interested in seeing the technology sales, so we'll just click that. Apply here. Okay, nice. So instantly we can kind of see that West Virginia, North Dakota, and Wyoming don't have any data for technology sales. So it looks like either that data is missing or there weren't any sales of technology. More likely to be the former, considering these are all pretty big populated states. Um, so yeah, we can see here, this is 159,000. So roughly a third of what the total sales are. And yeah, so say we want to edit this filter a little bit. Right click on it, click show filter, shows up on the side here. We can edit this to be a single value list. Perfect. So now we can instantly switch between the different subcategories, and you can see the map reflects that kind of instantly, or we can just look at all of them as a whole. So yeah, it looks like for office supplies, Wyoming doesn't have any sales there either. Kind of unfortunate. Uh, looks like for furniture, North Dakota doesn't have any sales. But there's a ton of sales everywhere else. Right. So that's kind of how the filled maps work. So let's go and kind of check out the other type. So symbol maps are very similar, except instead of filling in regions, they use symbols to display data points. The generic example is going to be just a circle of varying size or color, but we can kind of edit that if we'd like. So again, this is used with geospatial measures. This time you can actually use cities because they are reflected as points. And you can obviously use the other things like states, countries, counties, other sorts of regions like that. So let's go ahead and convert this to a symbol map. All right. And you can instantly see here that it looks like the data is pretty different. So we can see, of course, like California has the largest dot, which corresponds to the largest thing. Let's go ahead and change that from size. Let's make the size a little bigger. That's a little too big. There we go. So that seems like a pretty good reflection, We can see that California, of course, has the biggest. New York is right there behind. This is kind of maybe a little easier to see. We don't really need this thing here, so we can just hide that. And again, we can filter by furniture, office supplies, and technology as we did before. For the purposes of showing, we'll change this to color, just so you can kind of see. It looks like that changes it back to a filter map. And yeah, perfect. So this is kind of what it looks like with the symbol map. Again, different things can be used for different purposes. This is more useful for city actually, so why don't we go ahead and do that? Great. So as you can see here in this hierarchy, city falls just below state. So when I hit this plus icon on state, it goes down to city. And as you can guess, if I hit plus again, it'll go to postal code. There we go. Postal code seems a little too much information for now, so let's just stick with city. So as we can see with city, I want to change this size up a little more again. Perfect. So as we can see here, let's look for California. Perfect. So as you might guess, it looks like LA and San Francisco are the two highest. San Diego is a little bit behind here. state capital here, Brentwood, San Jose, a bunch of random cities. Um, but yeah, you can kind of see in a little more depth now that we have like our city view. You can see in more depth what this kind of looks like. And let's go see if we can't change this to color. All right, perfect. Um, so this is again a little tough to read because it looks like a lot of these cities are in that very, very lower end. So maybe we want to change the value of our colors again. Turn the opacity down a little bit. We can add a border if we'd like. Let's add a black border. No, that's a little too much. We'll make it dark gray. That looks all right. Perfect. And let's go ahead and go to let's go back to our original blue and teal. I kind of liked how this looked a little more. So again, we can do the same things as we did before, but instead of changing the color of the entire region, this will just change it'll change the city points. So we'll apply that here. Again, it doesn't look super useful because again, a lot of these are kind of in those lower bins. You can see, 1,000 here, 90, 200, they all kind of look the same. If we zoom in a little more, maybe we can see. Nope, it looks like they're all kind of falling into the same bin. So not as useful for the cities, but even from then we can glean that, San Francisco and Los Angeles do have the most sales, something that you might expect. So again, let's get rid of city and let's just go back to state. And as you can see, it automatically fills into the symbol map again because we chose color. Um, yeah, so that's kind of how that works. That's how symbol maps and filled maps work. It can be super useful for working with geographical data when you want to compare, in this example, sales by a certain region. Um, in my NBA data set that I love using, you can compare like points by team because all the teams are in different locations. So you can kind of see like, for example, do California teams score more points on average than Texas teams, things like that. But yeah, that's just kind of a general introduction to how filled maps and symbol maps work in Tableau.